Test. Okay, should be good to go. All right, happy Sunday. Everyone's doing well. Hope everyone had a nice weekend, and let us dive on in. We're gonna be diving on into a bunch of stocks to watch for this upcoming week. So let me pull this up. We're looking at futures as they sit right now, and pull up the chat so we can talk about that stuff. And then we're gonna dive right. I have my watch list right in front of me, so we'll dive into those, and we'll talk about really kind of what we're looking forward to in the coming week. I think there should be some good opportunities. We closed pretty strong last week on SPY and the overall market. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some weakness, because we did kind of rebound fairly quick. We had a couple nice gap up days to finish out the week. And pull up Webull really quick here, and then we'll dive on into what SPY is doing. We'll talk about what I'm talking about there, because it was a little, I wouldn't say concerning, but it was somewhat like, oh, okay, we kind of gapped up and went. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So here it is. Here's SPY, and so we have these gaps where we essentially had moves overnight, because we're looking at the 1 year, 1 day chart. So this gap here from Wednesday into Thursday was from this 436 up into that 438, so about a $2.50 gap there. Then on looks like going into Thursday into Friday, we had about a similar situation, about a $1.50, $2 gap there. Is it terrible? Is it bad? I mean, I can see these gaps getting filled. We're above the 50 SMA. So what I really want to see for this upcoming week, really on SPY, would be maybe fill this gap back down to that 442, 443 level. And then that's our springboard. That's our new support. So this is a prior area of resistance right in here, which I'll try to draw this a little bit better so we can see what I'm talking about here. This kind of area right here is what I'm looking at. Something like this, down into that 443-ish, 442 area, 50 SMA. We stay above that, that would be great. But if you go back in time and you look back to the left of some of these charts on SPY, go to the weekly chart, for example, right? We come down below the 50 SMA. It happens from time to time, for sure. But when we come down, we've actually kind of rebounded back above fairly quick. So we'll see how this holds up. This is the weekly chart. Sorry, let me go back to the daily chart. If we go back to the left here, we've come down, even back into this time last year, September, October. We came down for a couple of days and then eventually got back above, came down, came back above. So we'll see how this plays out. But I think that 50 SMA kind of is a crucial point, it seems like, in terms of, people feeling more comfortable going long again. And so if we hold over those levels, I think people will feel more comfortable going long. So that's what I'll be watching going forward into the upcoming week. I do want to keep things fairly short tonight. I don't want to kind of waste too much time. So we'll dive into Bitcoin, because that has been obviously making some big moves as of late. But we have, at least, it was interesting. I was just looking at Bitcoin. I mean, I can tell you, like, literally 2 hours ago. And I was watching this dip right here down into the 50s, back again from the 60s. It was over 60K. And then it rebounded. It looks like as of right now, it's bounced right back up. So Bitcoin looks really good. And it looks like it keeps, these dips keep getting bought up. So we'll see how this plays out. But that's going to be one to watch. I have been holding, my, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think I have a little bit of Solana, maybe, I forget, in my, one of my accounts. But that's really all I'm doing. I'm just holding the main names, and the core here, Bitcoin, Ethereum, is, at least for me, what I'm comfortable just kind of holding longer term, and that's it. So I'm looking for. I think we can certainly see 100K by the end of the year. Don't think it's impossible. And generally speaking, going into the end of the year, if you ask the crypto kind of gurus, whatever you want to call them, it's a pretty strong. It's the bull market. It's just kind of one of the hotter times, right, into the end of the year. So I would make sure, though, at a minimum, I would say, I would want to be looking at if I'm over leveraged into a lot of crypto, or let's say I'm over leveraged into some altcoins or something like that, or I have a lot of that. It wouldn't be a terrible idea if they hit all-time highs and they start going parabolic. It wouldn't be a terrible idea to take some profits if your intentions on those aren't necessarily long-term and you're kind of riding the hype, riding the wave. It's something I'm going to do. For sure. I grabbed a little bit of SHIB. Actually, let's take a look at it. How is SHIB doing? It's more of just for the meme, for the fun. But if Bitcoin goes all-time highs, I would not be surprised if SHIB goes nuts. And kind of that's the idea behind, why I grabbed some. And it is what it is. It's a pure lottery amount. So I'm not going to just hold that for the next couple of years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just literally sell that into the euphoria, sell it into the parabolic move, which it probably wouldn't have been a terrible idea had, let's say, you done that here so far in October. You'd be up really nice. But if we get one more push, then yeah, that, or multiple pushes, it's not a terrible idea, at least in my eyes, for something like that. That's how I see it. But that aside, let's dive into QQQ. I want to pull this up. Kind of the NASDAQ, get a piece, get to see how tech is doing. Tech is still kind of, below the 50 SMA on QQQ, so we got to get a nice move up over. It looks like 370 would be kind of seems like the threshold on tech. That's key. So one of those names I do want to pull up, kind of, I guess, in the space, right? Talking tech, talking, the overall market, talking S&P, talking, bigger name stocks. First is Tesla. Look at this. Tesla closed super, super strong. And then look at the after hours. So we closed at $843. And then we actually closed up just shy of $850 in the after hours. So Tesla looks like one of those stocks, at least this week, that could go for, very well this week, could go for that all-time high of 900, which is our level that we hit back here at the beginning of 2021, really back to January. 900 is key. And then if we break over 900, I wouldn't be surprised if we see 1,000 pretty soon. I think 1,000 by the end of the year isn't out of the question on a parabolic kind of move. Then I think we could see a pullback, but I think we can see a nice move. So we're kind of at the top of the channel, breaking out of the channel here on Tesla. I think we're going to be gunning for those all-time highs, and so that's what I'd be watching and at least looking forward to, going to this week for sure. Coinbase, let's pull it up, because I think it's good to get some bigger names. And look, Coinbase, really, really strong close on Friday, up almost 8%. Pretty wild that it was up 8%. Coinbase is an interesting spot. 280 up towards 300 is a pretty interesting spot because we've come to this level a couple of times in the summer and we couldn't break above. So now with the strength in Bitcoin, I wouldn't be surprised if Coinbase makes a shot for $300. And then I have a level right here that was pretty strong resistance, which is at 307. So I would say 307 is, if I was targeting a level on Coinbase, that 307 would be an area that I'd be watching, which happens to be just about 8-9% from where we're at right now. The current levels on Coinbase. So about $25, $27 move roughly is what I'd be targeting here, to that level. And then we'll see how it goes from there. Could go for more. Yeah, sure. But at least, I want to make sure I have a reasonable target in line first. So I like that setup, although it is getting extended. But look at the volume at the end of the week. Strong days, both Thursday and Friday. Volume came in very, very nice. And I think people are also, potentially anticipating that if crypto gets hot again, well, what are people going to start doing? They're going to start getting more active on Coinbase, trading the altcoins. And what does that mean for Coinbase? More users, more fees, more money. And so their numbers are going to be elevated potentially into the end of the year. And so I think people are noticing that and thinking about that. And so people are trying to get ahead of the game. And that's the idea there. So, we already see a decent chunk of that move starting to happen, at least for now. But we'll see how much life that has in it. BBIG is funny. Let's take a look at it. How did it finish up last week? I forget exactly where we finished up. 823. Interesting. So we got up into this level, and now this 775 area was a prior resistance. We're holding that as support, which we did on Friday. Pretty nice. And we got up here just over 9, so roughly $9. And I think over 9, we have 940. That's a 10. So BBIG has made that reversal for sure. And look at the volume. Look at this volume. Stair-stepping on up on the volume, which is actually a really nice kind of building for a parabolic move. And then boom, is kind of how you see it. So right now we had over 139 million shares traded on Friday on the 15th. So look for that level. Look for over 100 million shares. If over 100 million shares are traded again on Monday, probably a good sign. It probably doesn't tank. No, it could certainly tank, obviously, right? Anything can happen. At the end of the day, the stock market, that's the nature of the game. But it's one to watch. I think it's a good one to have on your list over here, over the 775. It holds that, good sign. If it can't hold that, down towards 7, and then down here towards 6, there's some other levels of support to watch for on BBIG. But we got, if we can clear over this 950, we got some range potentially back up into the double digits. I wouldn't be surprised, but that volume will be very telling, I would say, this coming week. CHBT is actually hilarious because take a look at this chart. I think it was, at least to me, it seems pretty obvious. Now we'll see if it gets rejected here, then it gets rejected here. But this was a prior area of support that I have right here at about 1980, at roughly give or take, 25, 50 cents around that $20 level, right? So 20 bucks was a key level. We came down, bounced. We look like we're going to go back up as we hit 21.50 and then final flush. So I think I have a video, go back about a week or so, or 2 weeks ago. There's a video called the final flush strategy. I mean, it seems like I've been seeing this across the board on a lot of stocks, not just penny stocks, not just kind of tech stocks, not just high growth. We're seeing it across the board, all over the place. And what are we seeing? Well, I'll give you kind of, I guess, a brief synopsis of this idea of the strategy. Is that we have a support level holding up for a while, and these stocks are pulling hard below that level, hitting everyone's stop loss, because it was very obvious, right? Here's the thing. Put a stop loss here. It looks like 19.50. Put a stop loss under 20 bucks. You close under 20 bucks on the charge point and you get out. Well, what do? We closed under 20 multiple days in a row, dipped down to 17.60. And at the time, this wasn't like a super weak period in the market. The market was kind of pushing up and down, chopping around. Wasn't anything crazy. There was actually some green days in this run down. And then it starts to bounce. Now, if we get rejected here at 20 bucks again and we pull back into the teens again on charge point, then we'll see that this area that was prior support is now resistance. But if we hold around this level and push higher in the coming days and weeks, that was your final flush. It stops a lot of retail traders out who are looking at support and resistance. They get stopped out, and then it's an all-you-can-eat buffet, as we say, for the big money, smart money, hedge funds, whatever, market makers. What you can name a lot of people as they, but they always win, right, in the stock market. And so that's the all-you-can-eat buffet. And then here we go for the next move up. So we'll see. But I think 25 is a very reasonable target on charge point. We can certainly see higher, but I think 25 in the near term for a swing idea is a very reasonable target. But you want to see it starting to hold back up over 20, or at least over 19.50 at some point here. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's one that I think is high on my list in terms of monitoring for that type of volatility, that manipulation, whatever you want to call it. It's an interesting one. All miners back on watch. Any should explode. Any's been interesting. I was, I am not currently in any, but I had it a while ago, and I was like, let's just chart wise, this look really nice. So I was like, hey, this thing has got really good support here. 550s where I would kind of put my line in the sand, and anything under 6 was good. I bought it under 6, sold it up around 7, I think, and then I pulled back down into the 6s again, held up there, and now it went for a bigger move. So we're seeing a bigger move here, but the volume is, a lot of the miners are very interesting. I think that you're kind of seeing like push and pull. You're not really seeing a really true everybody's going. We're seeing miner after sympathy after, like we're not really seeing that, which is interesting. So it's something to watch, but I've been for sure been noticing that. Then you go back to Mara and Riot, just kind of the interesting kind of disconnect here that they used to be very, very, very similar. The Bitcoin miners, look at Mara pushing up, had a great day on Friday. Let's pull this up. Really great day, looking like it wants to go for all-time highs fairly soon, very similar to Bitcoin. But if you go back to Riot, take a look at this. We go to Riot, and as I don't know if you guys can hear, but the outside just went nuts because Dallas just, I guess, won against the Patriots. Now I'm in Texas right now. Everyone's going nuts at the bars. But really, look at this volume. Really strong volume on the 15th here for Riot. So Riot has certainly been a lagger behind Mara. However, it seems like it was being held back for a while. So if you just look chart-wise, and if Bitcoin goes nuts, I understand fundamentals, I understand all that stuff, right, aside. But chart-wise, and just talking about people's eyes, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, hey, Riot's got a lot more range than Mara may have. I like Riot for a move of, from where it's at up towards 50 bucks. And they could see that, and, at least it's more rational, right? Then let's say Mara going to 100 plus. They could certainly happen. But I think that Riot is an interesting trade. It's probably not a terrible idea, at least in my eyes, to take a lottery position. If Bitcoin goes all-time highs, take a lottery here and have a target up into that 50 range. I don't think it's a terrible idea. It's been kind of consolidating and chopping around for a while. So it's something to watch, I think, for sure. Bitcoin helping Coinbase for sure. I think for sure, and so I think people are trying to get ahead of that move, with Bitcoin pushing up. What is it going to do? It's going to send more altcoins. It's going to send more people flooding to the platform to be, buying and selling. more fees, more money for Coinbase, more users. It's going to look really good. And their next couple of quarters, their next couple of earnings might look really, really nice. So that's the idea on the Coinbase play. So I don't think it's a terrible idea. Even though Coinbase had a really strong, finish the week last week, you still might have some range up to that 300 plus level. And we'll see. It really depends, I think, on Bitcoin, and depends on how the hype train across crypto really moves. That said, I want to pull up Ethereum really quick. Let's pull up Ethereum and let's see how it's doing. It's solid too. It pushed up almost at all-time highs back here at the beginning of September, and now here we are, about a month and a half almost later, and we're back up there. So it's very similar. I think Ethereum can make a move to 5 to, who knows? I think 5 to 8,000 is not out of the question, but we'll see how Bitcoin plays. I think Bitcoin 100K is going to happen this year, at least the pace we're moving right now. I would also not be surprised. Be ready for this though, because upon this attempt at these all-time highs, if we go back to Bitcoin, I want to see and just at least take a peek at how it handled the 20K level. Let's go to the weekly chart here. So when Bitcoin originally this highs back in 2017, when we originally got up to that level here, if you go back to, this is now going back to last year, end of last year, late last year. So these are weekly candles. Now there's been a lot more volatility since, but we did see some decent volatility. We pushed up towards that 20K, and then we pulled back, back into right here on this candle right here. I know it's tough to see. We pushed up to 19,000. Then pulled back in that same candle. We had pullbacks down to sub 17. So there's going to be volatility there. So be ready for that, for a potential false breakout, fake out, breakout, like all that type of stuff is probably going to happen with Bitcoin. So I would not be surprised if Bitcoin goes to like 65K. Everyone goes, oh, here's the breakout. Time to load up and play the breakout trade to 100K or to whatever the next target is, right? 75K, whatever. And then it pulls back super hard. Maybe there's some news. Who knows? Pulls back super hard. And then everyone freaks out, panic sells, and then it picks up from there. That's kind of what I'll be watching for. Be ready for that, because I think it's going to happen. Similar to what we were noticing here. I think we had this with El Salvador news back here on the 7th of September. But we were looking really strong. Bitcoin was pushing up. It was pushing back up into the 50K range, over 50K, and then a couple hard pullbacks, massive drops. I mean, percentage-wise, you're talking about a move back down of over 15% in a day, in a couple hours. So be ready for that. Obviously, I think people know with Bitcoin comes volatility, but just be ready for that type of stuff if we get it. It could fake a lot of people out, even if we do see a bigger move. So it's something to at least take into consideration to watch. And it might make for some really good volatility across the miners, the Annies, the Maras, the Riots, and there's many more. Hut, where's Hut? Let's pull up Hut. Hut had a nice chart. HUT, look at this. It's a very nice play, but it's going to make for, because a lot of attention's on these stocks. So on any pullbacks, these things may come back really hard. So it could be good, for day traders, for some puts, for even some intraday shorts. And then I think the ultimate play here will be the bigger picture approach and the swing, but it could make for some good volatility both directions. So if you like trading, long or short puts, calls, and you don't really care, you're just kind of trading off of Bitcoin. You got Bitcoin pulled up, and then you got your list of 5 or 6 miners that you like. There will be kind of arbitrage opportunities. I'm sure of it, going forward over the coming weeks to take advantage of both long and short across a lot of these names. Same as BTBT. This is one that's been, quite popular. It's kind of getting held up and consolidating, but I wouldn't be surprised if this makes a little move here, consolidating around 10, makes a move up into that, $15 to $20 range in the coming weeks, as long as Bitcoin stays strong and stays, nice and juicy. So that's what I'm looking at least on the Bitcoin front. And let's dive into some other ones. So Clover Health. I've been seeing people talking about Clove. Pull it up again. I've been noticing a few names talking about it in recent comments, recent videos. So let's see. We have a good support here at $7. We're sitting here just under 8. So I think you're kind of bouncing around 50 SMA up here towards 8, a little over 8, down towards 7. It's not a terrible idea. Down here, it's nice and quiet. Clove honestly has a very similar chart to like penny stocks. A lot of penny stocks and small caps that at least I like to trade a lot of those. And so it has a similar chart, which I would say, you got some range down here to add down towards 7, and then below 7 down towards 650 could be 2 add zones, and then looking for a move back up, looking for a possible short squeeze or for some news to send Clove back up, or if we're even a slower grinder. I know people like it potentially for a longer term play as well. So there's multiple ways you can play it, but Clove is one to have While it's nice and low, while it's quiet, keep it on your radar. A little bit of volume pushing up the past couple of weeks, so it's a nice idea. JSPR had a crazy run. I mean, to me, these are just momentum plays. So this is something that I don't know. It could easily come right back down sub 10, or it could go 25. Who knows how high it can go. It's all momentum based. So personally, I'm not a huge fan of it because it's just, for most people, it's just not worth your time unless you're going to be an intraday trader looking at the quick, couple of minute time frame, type of deal. But from Friday, you have support here down towards 14. So there's a level of support. You don't want to see it dropping below 14. Then it could probably come back down to that 12 range, sub 13. I don't know. I would say I'm staying away. That's just me. But there'll be money to be made here for sure, long or short, I'm sure. So DPW, that's one that they have a mining business as well. Now it's not a huge portion of their business, I guess. But DPW has a mining business and it had some really good volume. So it's high on it's actually right here on my list. It's high on my list. And so DPW is a play that I think has a really good range. So we'll look back at this chart, zoom out. Now, I'm not going to get, excited about any of these crazy, stuff because you got reverse stock splits, offerings, all that type of stuff that happens. But from where DPW is at right now, right down here in the low twos, you got a sub 240, or you got to move from here to $3 would be about 25%. Some recent spikes up towards that 350, we about 50%. So DPW, in my eyes, for a spike, a pop and potential drop, fairly soon after, there's range up here, I think, for sure. So it's one that I would have, I would be definitely, it's on my list, So it is, that's where, at least where I'm looking. If you can get this thing under the 50 SMA, under 250, I think under 250 is a decent spot to have it. So that's my look on DPW. Last time I played DPW for a nice swing was back in here, which was nuts. Now we got some news, but it was back in November. So we're approaching a time of the year, though, guys, too. We're really approaching a time of year where a lot of these small caps are heating up, and it's the time that they start to pop off bottoms. They start to drop these. They start to get some crazy runs. So we'll see. We had a better week last week across the board, it seemed like, where a lot of small caps did better. They held up better. There was more follow through. The week before was bad. So we'll see if that momentum continues into this week, and we'll get a feel for that for sure. Opinion on SOS. I think the problem with SOS is a lot of people are staying away from China. So SOS, I think I mentioned too on Twitter lately, and someone commented back too. It's got a lot of negativity surrounding China, and so that's the whole deal. However, at some point we have to understand this. At some point, this might not matter if Bitcoin goes crazy, because they are, I believe, I forget if they buy anything else, but it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting play, as it is absolutely bottoming out. No, could it go lower? Yeah, it sure could. Market cap here for them is about 400 mil as we speak right now. Could it go lower than 2? It sure could. But it looks like $2 is holding up as our, a decent level of support right now on SOS. And that could provide some range. I mean, if you just think about this range on this play, you have a move to 3. That's there on the chart. That's a move to $3 from where we're at right now, and that's 40%. I mean, you even get range up into, let's say, the 200 SMA. That's 380. That's almost a 100% move. So this one could be like a CEI type of play. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something wild like that, where a lot of people kind of get behind it on social media, say, hey, this stock had tons of range, back up in here, back when Bitcoin was at its all-time highs. What's going on? Oh, just some China fears? Well, whatever. People might start playing it that way. So it's one that I would be honestly interested in diving deeper into. I'll toss on the list. It's been the back burner kind of for a while. I've been interested in diving a little bit deeper into, just to kind of get a sense for, can I find anything? Can I get a feel for because they had a short report come out. They had all this stuff. Are they legit? Are they BS? Is this, even if it is BS, right? The company is BS, right? It doesn't matter. You can still trade it. So chart wise, this might not be a terrible trade. I kind of like it. I think it's worth a lot. I would say I would not be going in full position here. So for me, which I'm thinking I may change in the coming months, my rules, my risk management kind of whole strategy and stuff. I generally have a rule of 10% max in a position. I might up that to 15 to 20% of my account at some point, depending upon how I want to do things. I'm just noticing that sometimes having too many positions is a little bit it's a little bit counterproductive sometimes. It can be, but for me, I wouldn't go in more than a max position based on my risk management, my risk tolerance, which is 10%. I would not be going in more than, let's say, 5% of my portfolio into a stock like SOS, and that's the deal. So that's how I play it. Kind of think of it as a lottery, but also it's, what's the downside here is not massive chart wise. The downside isn't massive unless they offer or, they get delisted or, they go bankrupt. Then that's of course massive downside, but I don't think it's terrible for it, with Bitcoin running. So it's an idea. Okay. ETH floor. I'll take a look at that in a second. ELYS turning down. Let's see. ELYS. So here's what I did last time. Fundamentally, here's the thing. My play on this one is, I want to say, more fundamental in a sense than technical. But technically speaking, I like it right here. If it holds 450, that's where it bounced last time. That's where it bounced last time back here. Well, a couple weeks ago. And so I actually have an average, sub 475 right now. I didn't buy that much initially when I started buying. I want to say I had a much bigger position back here when I had an average in the lower fours for the move, and it popped to 670, and I took it all off. And then it faded back on off. And then I started buying this thing under 5. And so my strategy is going to be holding this 450. If it can't hold 450, what I might do is cut it in half, cut whatever I have in half, and then look to add back down towards 4 if we can get 4. I don't know if we will, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get in there. I think they still got they got plenty of cash. They got a lot of news, or they got a lot of potential news releases coming up. And on top of that, they also have a lot of positive stuff going on business-wise, opening up in DC, and then they have that partnership with New York. So there's a lot of potential here, and so we'll see how it plays out. It's kind of my play. I still think it's a $10 plus stock at some point. Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer. But if we get a pop, we get a spike like that, like we got here on the 31st of August. I mean, hey, I'm taking profits into these moves. I don't care. Doesn't matter what stock it is. If I love it, doesn't matter if it's Tesla. I mean, I don't care. Like if the stock gets a crazy move, like for example Tesla, if I was trading Tesla, right, and I'm not obviously my approach isn't long term, and that's not how my approach is really for a lot of the stocks that I really trade. Then if we get a crazy move, if Tesla goes to all-time highs, breaks out, goes parabolic, I'd be taking profits. That's how I would do it. Just personally my way of doing things. And if Tesla goes crazy, yeah, sure. Could it be a wild mover, or could ELYS or could some other stock be crazy? Sure, but I'll take my profits there, and I'll look for something else that I see as undervalued at the current times and move into on that one. So market cap here in ELYS is approaching, it's coming down almost sub 100 million again. I think it's a joke. So that's why I like it. Anything under 100 million market cap I think is a joke, but we'll see how it plays out going forward. Ethereum, ETH. Let's pull it up. So right now we have interesting spots. So I think what I put a line right here is my level right here. So it dipped down to today. It seemed like on that hard pull, looks like $3,600 roughly on Ethereum. Below that, I have levels down here, down towards 3,200, and then down towards 2,800. Those are the key levels I want to see hold on Ethereum. So we'll see if it can break up over 4,000 again, push over 4K, and then break this all-time high, make it run at 5K. I would be surprised we see some profit taking there at 5K. It's probably going to be a key level of profit taking. I would say SOS, save our stock. Hey, maybe they get saved. Maybe they have a crazy run and well, here's the thing. If SOS runs hard, I can almost guarantee you. I mean, I wouldn't want to be stepping in front of a monster like CEI. Here's the thing. And a lot of people did, right? They stepped in front, tried to short CEI. Now, if you did that before it hit $1, right, you got blown up. But if you did that up in the $2, $3, $4, $4 range, you made a lot of money. And in the same sense of SOS, I can almost guarantee you that if they have a crazy run in the coming weeks, they're going to do an offering. They're going to capitalize. They don't, I mean, it seems like from their past history, they don't care. They're going to capitalize. So there'll be a good short too on that one. So it's, an interesting idea. They have I wonder if they have options. They have options. Wow. So SOS has options on. That's interesting. So, hey, maybe there's something there on both sides on the move there. So we'll see. Skills, Fun Flush. Let's see. SKLZ. I mean, here's the thing. Everything could always dip more, but this does have the look to me like a possible flush because we had this support level right here held up in, end of the summer, $10, and then it flushed down to sub 8, and then it's trying to push back up. So $10 will be key area. If it can reclaim 10, great. Under 8 is kind of your threshold for, hey, this could come down a lot more. Maybe not a lot more, but it could come down some more, and we'll see. But it's getting low. I think there's going to be a relief bounce at some point. The problem with a lot of these names, though, and even NNDM, I'll pull it up. The problem with some of these names is that, when you see these charts, this is how the game kind of goes for a lot of these things. They get super overextended, and then they come down, and then they get kind of super oversold. NNDM, I wouldn't say is super oversold. I mean, it's oversold relatively speaking, but we're still talking about a market cap of 1.4 billion. We're talking about a stock that's holding support here in the 5s. If it can hold over 5, it's looking fine. But NNDM, in my eyes, can easily make a run, in like a couple days from where it's at right now up towards $8, 40%, and then come right back down, or kind of slowly kind of trickle back off. Or we'll see if we get ARK Invest again. They start pumping it up. Who knows? But a lot of these stocks, when they get crazy, crazy runs and they start to dip, you get a lot of people buying that dip, and then they get stuck in these trades. And so you have the bag holders, and when the bag holders in these trades, it really hurts the potential of the next run because there's so many bag holders who are holding from so much higher up. So any run gets sold into, any run, everyone starts selling their, or trying to trim out to, minimize their loss or move on. And it really hurts the move that you could be seeing. So that's kind of, I think, what we saw here back in, end of June, early July, potentially. That got, ruined there as we push up towards 9. Looked like it wanted to go 10 plus, and it got rejected there. So we'll see. It's coming down to a pretty nice spot, though, support-wise. I think $5 holds up, $5.25 we have support. If that level holds, that's it's a really good spot. Risk reward. And here's the thing, too. A lot of these stocks, you don't have to really necessarily worry about. I think a lot of people, get too caught up in the story behind it and this and that. If it breaks below your area, right, then just move on. But if you can find opportunities like NNDM, where you can get in here around 550, for example, and you're going to risk yourself down to $5, you're going to risk yourself 10%, but you're ideally looking for a much bigger move. So if you can risk 10% to make 40% if you're targeting $8 as your upside, well, then putting yourself in those situations, yeah, there'll be times where you feel like you can't get anything right, and it's like, oh, everything's wrong. But, you put yourself in those situations and you actually respect your stops, you actually respect your risk reward, you're going to be fine. That's kind of the situation that I'm kind of in, at least as of now, because we saw so many stocks running. And so we're just not in at least penny stocks, so small caps. So we're just not in a great, we haven't been a super hot market for a lot of swings. So you can be buying these lows, but they can always go lower. And so that's one of those things that, hey, it's fine because I'm managing my risk. I'm not taking massive losses. I mean, I've had some stupid stuff that I've had to manage myself, but I'm not taking massive losses on losers. But then you find the ones that win will ultimately outweigh. So you get a couple in a row, boom, 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 market heats up. Next thing you know, boom, 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 you've already been in these. You're essentially first on the scene because you're buying when no one wants these things. Doing your analysis, doing your risk reward analysis, doing your due diligence, and then you could be setting yourself up really, really nice. And it doesn't take many plays. 1 or 2, 50% movers, 100% mover that you wake up to, off of news. Boom, that can change an account. In literally a day, in a press release. So, I think a lot of people get caught up in some of these things a little too much, and there's cycles and there's stuff that you got to kind of manage and work your way through. And it's a longer term game. I don't want to say, for a lot of people, I don't want to say it's a super long game. Like, okay, like here we are trying to get rich by the time we're 90. No. I think that I'm definitely someone in between of like, I'm not like the super high risk day trader every day, but I'm definitely not the just invest long term type of person and, save every 2 cents and, don't buy coffees and then, retire when you're, 70 with a ton of money. I'm definitely like more of an in between where it's like, we can do that, but also we could do better than the average market return every year. We can beat that. And then you can get to a point where financially you're in a really good spot in, a couple of years rather than decades. I think that, that's kind of at least where I feel like I I focus on. I think it's a lot more realistic for more people than the day trade lifestyle. And it's a lot more, at least, I don't know, it's a lot easier to understand, or at least a lot easier to kind of target than the long-term kind of style, which I always recommend you have that in place, but then you can do this with some extra money, and that money can build up, So that's how I see it. Let's see. Stuck at the top. Yeah, it is what it is. There's always learning experiences too, because who knows when the top's gonna be? Who knows when the bottom's gonna be? Timing the top and bottom are very difficult to do, obviously. That said, I don't want to stay too long. I want to wrap things up. So we covered a good amount of things. Let us know in the comments what you're watching. And this video will stay up so you can go back and watch if you missed the beginning. But so right now, market-wise, tech, small caps, everything's down about 0.25% or less. So it's not terrible. It's not like it's down massive, but it's something that we'll see how tomorrow opens up. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little pullback on SPY. Let's go back to SPY really quick before we wrap things up. I wouldn't be surprised for a small pullback on SPY down to about, looks like 443, and then that could be the springboard. 50 SMA, and that's your 50 SMA. So watch that level. This blue line right here on the S&P is right here at like 442.65. It'll probably be around 443 tomorrow, the next couple of days. That's your key level to watch. Holds that level. It looks like, I would imagine, bulls come back into control, and we look pretty good. And hey, if we just rocket straight on up, yeah, that would be cause for concern, at least in my eyes. I'd want to maybe put a UVXY hedge on if we go up to 500 before the end of the year on SPY. But if we start to kind of make a move and our trend looks more like this, well, that's a lot more realistic, right, in terms of the market. So I want to see something like this. I don't want to see something like this. If I see something like this, all I'm going to do, put a hedge on. That's it. Have a hedge and still play the game. That's it. I'm not going to be, trying to call top, trying to call bot. I don't care. Put a hedge on, and if we have a big red day or two, or we have a month, at least you're covered. You got your downside protected a little bit, and you move on. So that's my plan. Hopefully you guys got something out of the lives. Going forward next week, I won't be able to go live. I'm going to be back in Pennsylvania. So I will not be live next weekend, next Sunday, but stay tuned for like a midweek live. We'll do one this Wednesday, and we'll do one next Wednesday as well. So stay tuned for those. Consider